Public education has always been a top priority for the town of Winchester. One of the many ways in which our town expresses its support for education is through the existence of the Winchester Foundation for Educational Excellence, also known by its acronym of the WFEE. This independent, nonprofit foundation, founded in 1992, raises and grants private funds to support and encourage innovation and excellence in the Winchester Public Schools through initiatives that are beyond the reach of available public funds. Each year, the foundation awards grant funding for teacher-driven educational projects that encourage leadership, creativity, and collaboration, and that gives students and teachers the technology and tools to keep learning current and exciting. Today, we'd like to take you into the Vincent Owen Elementary School, into the classroom of multi-age teachers David Crane and Christine Kelly, who in 2002 were awarded a major WFEE grant for an artist in residence to work with students in grades kindergarten through 5th grade at the VO school. The goal of the WFEE grant program is to enrich student growth and development, and to seed new approaches to teaching and learning that launch long-term, self-sustaining improvements in our schools. Let's take a look at the Vincent Owen Artist in Residence grant project and see how these goals were realized by this wonderful initiative that impacted the entire school.
My name is David Crane. I'm a multi-age teacher here at the Vincent Owen Elementary School in Winchester. I work with Christine Kelly, who's the other multi-age teacher, and we collaborate in many projects throughout the year. I've been here for it's my 4th year in Winchester. I began to hear the scale and scope of the grants, and I decided that we would really look into this in a serious way after we had developed the ideas for this grant. The process is reasonably simple. We apply for a grant, we provide a budget, we provide a goal, an explanation, and a timeline. The grant was writing through time, and the idea originally was to involve writing through each grade level and letter building in a developmentally appropriate way that would connect the whole school and make it really a project that was done with a common thread that ran through the whole thing. The grant funded an artist in residence, and the artist, Kathy, was able to bring a press and all the materials to the school and then work with each of the teachers and figure out what their needs were and how to develop the project the best way that they could. I wanted to involve the whole school. I wanted to make sure that this was something that almost was going to build community in a way, because it could show everyone how everybody is learning at a different way, at a different scale, and how the scope of the projects are going to change as they moved. So Kathy came up with the idea of coming here, and that's how the idea began.
I'm Catherine Kernan, and I was the resident artist for the project at the Vincent Owen, the printmaking project that took place early last spring of 2002. My background is as a professional artist and printmaker, a painter and a printmaker. So I have a graduate degree in printmaking, an undergraduate degree in fine art. And most of the teaching I do is at college level. The teaching I do in grade school is just special projects like this once in a while. The grant I wrote primarily focused on alphabets and the development of writing through time. In actuality, it changed as I spoke to the teachers about what the curriculum was at the particular time of year that we were working, so I adapted it to suit each grade level, the developmental level of the children, the curriculum, and that's where I worked with the teachers primarily. They let me know what they were studying, what would be an appropriate visual thing to focus on, and we talked it out together. We talked it out email, in person, in writing, came up with a plan, and then I took their curriculum and translated it into something that would be appropriate for printmaking. Great. The kindergarten classes really just worked on alphabets. I had stencils and cutouts of letters, and they just picked a letter and did that letter. and then it was put together into an alphabet book. The first grade, I believe, was doing Africa. Is that right? They were doing Africa. So they did an African animal, and then they wrote the name of the African animal in Swahili and in English. So they got a little bit of a language thing in there, and they learned the words in Swahili. The second grade, I'm trying to remember what they were doing. They were doing Japan. So they did haiku poems and then illustrated those. I had a Japanese friend write out the main word for each haiku poem in Japanese, and then they included that in the print. So they had some familiarity with the construction of a Japanese letter and the construction of a Japanese poem. We talked about Japanese images a little bit, the simplicity of them, the kind of empty and closed and open spaces in Asian art. The third grade did homonyms. So they worked on words that sound the same but mean different things. And they came up with some very, very funny things to illustrate. They were very humorous. See, the fourth grade was doing Greece, ancient Greece. So they did Greek gods and heroes. Again, a cutout of a Greek god or hero background. A lot of them loved Aphrodite, of course. He was a very popular one. Well, mostly in the little girls, they liked Aphrodite. And in the fifth grade, the two classes, each class illustrated Paul Revere's ride, the Midnight Ride of Paul Revere. So they did a collaborative project in that each child got a section of the poem, and that text was on their page with that part of the poem illustrated. A lot of them cut out horses and put those elements in, and stone walls, trees, buildings, very, very elaborate stories. It was a balance between wanting to give each child something to take home, but also wanting them to be part of a larger project. So in most cases, I put together books for the class. I think at the end of the school year, those books, most of them were taken apart so that each child could take their print home. I left that up to the teachers what they did, but I tried to have a balance between the pride and individual achievement and awareness of being part of a bigger structure, a bigger project that involved the whole class, the whole school. The project for multi-age was more elaborate and more collaborative than for the other grades, partly because of David's involvement and enthusiasm for the project. But David saw it as a chance to bring the writing of stories and group work to an integrated result with art. So we worked together on that. He did the writing. He sent me the written stories. We worked out the whole technical process together, really. And then when I came in with the press, he was here, he helped me, he helped coach the children. We really worked very closely back and forth. And in this class, it really was the making of the entire book. In some of the other classes, they did individual images, which were then combined into a book, but they didn't have the storyline necessarily. They didn't have the sequencing of the books that you saw here.
Well, we tried to link each grade level's outcomes at some part of their curriculum to what our project was going to be. In multi-age, for example, we were doing an Africa study, and I wanted it more than just creating animals. I wanted to do something with text and working together in groups and problem solving in a way that would make sense to all the kids that were involved.
My name is Caitlin Bailey. I go to Vincent Owen School. I did this with Mr. Crane's class, and we were studying Africa. And in Africa, they wrote folktales about how an animal got something on the animal, or like how giraffe got a long neck. So we wrote a book as well, and we paired up and got an animal. So we would write about that animal and write a story about how it got whatever it got. So I did how the South African crested porcupine got its quills, because porcupines have quills, and like if you were doing a snake, you wouldn't do how it got quills because it doesn't have any quills. We read the story, and then somebody came in and we did a cool art project with the paper press. And what we do is we cut out our shapes, and we would draw on the shapes, and then the press would put it through the press, and it would come out as a storybook. I cut out a crocodile, and I cut out a porcupine. Then I put them down, and I traced over them.
Okay.
Then I painted around here with the paint.
Okay.
I was using this piece of paper, and I painted around all of this with the lake here and then the banks. Then I took the tracing that I had done right here, and I took my shape, and I pressed down the shape after painting the green on it, and it made like kind of a print right here. Then we put the paper through the press, so it came out smushed like this, so you could see it really well, instead of just like stamping something down. And then I drew this green on the porcupine and the eye, and I put little details around, and then it was done. Then we took the words and we pasted them on this part of the paper, and we got the book. And that's basically how we did it. We used special paints because this was, when we put it through the press, then it got smushed, so we wanted to make sure it didn't run, so I wouldn't have like the link down here.
Okay.
So, and we just put it through the press, and the press kind of did all the work in making it so you could this came out good. Well, it's pressed through the page, and then the press made it so it really looked like we had painted it, but it didn't take as long as it looks because the press did a lot of the work.
In both multi-age classrooms, one of the biggest emphases that we have is the literacy piece. Many of these kids are learning to read or are developing as readers, and books are whole pieces. It's not just words, it's not just ideas, although it's both of these things, but it's also a physical thing that you can touch and feel, and it's important to be able to make that connection as a reader, that books are part of part of every sense that you possess. So to make a book, and to make a professional quality book, was huge in getting these kids to connect to books and then connect to literacy.
How the lion got its gold mane. Once upon a time there was a lion cub. He had no mane. This is the story of how the lion got his mane.
Lion went into the forest. He said, I am going into the forest. I need a compass. I don't want to get lost. He heads off to buy one.
The lion heard the cries of the animals in the jungle. There was a big fire. One by one, the lion saved all of the animals. All of a sudden, a genie appeared. He said, since you have saved the animals who were mostly babies, you shall have a reward, a golden reward, as good as gold. Yes, you will have a golden mane. You will wear it always like a crown. So forevermore, the lion has a golden mane.
Now the press isn't built to be moved around, so Kathy designed a table and a set of wheels to move it from place to place. And so really it was her ingenuity about making the press come to the school that made this work.
I've never met a child yet who didn't like to paint and throw paint around and cut things and run a printing press. The printing press itself has a big wheel, and that appeals to the children very much. They love to hang onto it and turn it, and were forever wanting to grab onto it and see how tight it could be and see how strong they were and show off with their friends. So I kidded them about giving them speeding tickets so they wouldn't twirl that wheel too fast. They were completely fascinated with the machinery of printing, with the with the press itself, the rollers and the blankets and the wheels and the different gauges for tightening and loosening. That part of it appealed to them just in a very physical sense. They had to think of a situation in the story. The stories were divided up into 4 or 5 episodes. Each child had an episode that they were responsible for. They did a drawing on a piece of paper. Each child did a drawing on a piece of paper where they planned the positioning of their animal and they planned the background to some extent, some more and some less. That drawing was then put underneath a piece of clear plastic sheet, Lexan. Then they drew their main animal on a piece of coated paper, waterproofed paper, and cut it out. Now, this is the movable piece that can be used over and over again. On the Lexan, there's really no texture to hold the paint. It's all painted process. So they would paint the background, paint the figure itself, the animal, sometimes more than one animal in a scene, very often, sometimes a very elaborate background, using rollers and brushes with a paint tray, this kind of paint marker that gives you a line much like a magic marker line, and some other implements that are little squeeze bottles with brushes. So they could use any of these tools, and they could use things like Q-tips to wipe away and make lines through the paint. And at this point, they're very free and loose about what they're doing. They're really just pushing the paint around, putting it down, wiping it up until they're comfortable. And here, every child can be who they are naturally. Some are very messy and some are very neat and meticulous. And that's where they can find their level of approaching the project. They can really individualize it. When they're satisfied with the background and they've painted their animal, the animal gets placed in position on the plate. It gets taken to the printing press. The printing paper is placed on top of the paint, and then the whole plate with the paper is passed through the printing press. There's some felt blankets that go on top to give cushioning and make good contact, and then it comes off. Now, what we did on this particular project was to be sure to leave a very clean panel on one side of the paper, and that's where the words were put in afterwards. So they had to plan where the words were going to go and divide them up by episode of the story.
It's a book that's called How the Lion Got Its Gold Mane that I made with 3 other people. How we came up with the cover or even the book is we were doing porpoise stories in the class, like with the 2 multi-age classes. And like there were 4 people in each group, and we 4 people got the lion, and then we had to figure out what was like one detail that's different from other animals, that's like special about it. And then we thought about the mane, because most creatures don't really have a mane, or any creatures. Like only the lion has it, or even a horse. But then again, we weren't doing horses, we were studying Africa. Well, the first page right here was done by Bala, and it was about began with a lion cub. And it introduces what the story was about, or what the story was going to be about. And it says that he had no mane. And this one was done also by Bala, and he went into the forest and he wanted to get a compass. So he didn't have one, and he went off to the store. Next page was done by Gabrielle, and he heard his animals in the forest fire, and he went to save them one by one. And the end is the one that's done by me, and Eugenia appeared, and as I told, and really just gives him the prize.
And it says, it says, since you have saved the animals who are mostly babies, you shall have a reward, a golden reward, as good as gold. Yes, you will have a golden mane. You will wear it always like a crown. So forevermore the lion has a golden mane. That's like mostly the end of the book, but I just really have some great feelings about how this book was made, how it always had a lot of different colors. It was very colorful, and how it never really seemed as change in illustration, even though it was done by different people and different ages, because these other people here were, since we were multi-age, they were first graders then, and I was a second grader then. And I don't know why they're the same, it's just that they have the same feeling of a story or a tale. So that's what I mostly think about this book, and that's why I really like it.
Now, I didn't anticipate the kids putting themselves and taking this kind of responsibility to really make the books work as illustrators. One of the things we always talk about is when you write something, the reader has to understand it, and the pictures have to match the words, and the words have to match the pictures. I didn't anticipate their excitement about really, because of the process, they were really into making sure that the pictures were sequential. So the degree of collaboration was greater than I've ever seen at this age level for this kind of a project.
How the South African crested porcupine got its quills. Long ago there was a porcupine. He looked like a turtle. He was green.
One day, the porcupine got thirsty. He went out to the lake to get a drink. He saw a crocodile and thought, a crocodile, I'll go and tease it. So the porcupine went and teased it.
The crocodile was so angry that he swung his tail at the porcupine. The porcupine landed in the thorn bush. He came out of the thorn bush covered in thorns. He went home to his wife. They soon had babies covered in thorns, quills, and then porcupines had them forevermore.
Healthcare at its finest in a community setting. This is the essence of Winchester Hospital. Hello, I'm Kim Casey, and I'd like to welcome you to Winchester Hospital. As a Winchester resident, I can tell you firsthand that we are truly so fortunate to have such a first-class medical facility right here in our own backyard. Winchester Hospital is a unique institution. In an era when most nonprofit community hospitals have closed their doors, Winchester Hospital is busier than ever. The hospital has remained committed to its mission of providing the best health care for the citizens of this area, and it's been ranked in the top 100 hospitals in the United States. This kind of success doesn't happen by itself. Ever since its founding in 1912, the hospital has continually renovated its services to meet the needs of the community. That process is still going on today as the hospital continues to respond to changes in health care. One of the busiest areas of Winchester Hospital is its maternal and child health services. This year, over 2,400 babies will be born here.
In this hospital presently, we are doing about 2,400 deliveries a year. That is a large number for a hospital this size. When you have that number, you're going to have a certain number of premature babies. Premature babies that can be saved if they are taken care of immediately after birth. In this hospital, we have a neonatologist, that is a pediatrician, who has special training in newborns who are in trouble.
This level 2 nursery or special care nursery provides, high-tech services to both babies that are delivered here and need emergency services for stabilization, as well as babies that are born in Boston at less than 32 weeks of age that need some convalescing care and aren't ready to be at home.
I delivered my twin boys after 26 and a half weeks of pregnancy, so they were very, very premature babies. We delivered in Boston, and we were in the NICU there for quite some time after they were born, and we're very, very happy with the care that we got. But it came to a point where the type of care the boys needed wasn't necessarily what was offered in a NICU in Boston. The boys needed help with their lungs, and they needed time to grow. They needed help with feeding issues. When the boys arrived here, they had never eaten from a bottle. All of their feedings were through the nose. And within the first 2 hours of being here, they both drank their whole meals from bottles. We've been here, I think, 3 weeks now, and the transformation in my children during the time that they've been here at the hospital has been truly amazing. And I really think it's a big part of that is the nursing staff here and the care and compassion that they showed the boys. And I couldn't be happier with the care that we received here.
Every parent, every family has a unique background, and each baby has a unique problem, set of problems that we are able to manage. This nursery really does special things for people all the time. It's an everyday occurrence here. I'd like to thank the donors for enabling us to do the work that we do here at Winchester Hospital, in particular Special Care Nursery. The brand new unit that we have had for the past 2 years has been absolutely phenomenal. The working space, the equipment has made our job in taking care of the baby so much easier. It has made our families so much more comfortable seeing the high-tech equipment that we're able to provide, just like they saw in Boston, but here in the Winchester setting, but also in a warm and friendly and inviting environment.
I support the Winchester Hospital because it's a great benefit to the community to have this hospital in Winchester, and the staff is wonderful, as everyone knows. I think it's such a worthy cause, and I encourage every one of you to support it also.
For nearly a century, Winchester Hospital has provided exceptional health care to our community, and we hope you'll do whatever you can to help the hospital continue its mission, providing quality health care to your family, friends, neighbors, and the thousands of people who walk through these doors. On behalf of Winchester Hospital, I'd like to say thank you for your support.
While our children's eyes are filled with wonder and curiosity, we're left to wonder if they'll ever be able to handle the challenges of the real world. Look closely at who they already are, at the things they discover on their own. To a child, playtime is a rehearsal for the real world they will inherit as adults. It's where they learn to be tolerant, to share, to communicate how they feel, to dream. Don't underestimate the power of play.
You were always there for me, pushing me and guiding me, always to succeed. You showed me everything that I should know. You showed me
appreciation. Pass it on. A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.